Hello and welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. This is an all signs reading for the new moon in Aquarius. I'm recording this on the 28th. The new moon is at 7:35, almost 7:36 a.m. on the morning of the 29th here on the east coast of the US at about 9 degrees 51 minutes of Aquarius. It doesn't have a lot of aspects. It's trine Jupiter in Gemini. And it happens to be square Vesta in Scorpio. And that's actually quite a tight square. So something around purpose, around keeping the flame lit. So if you haven't watched one of these, I've shuffled and I have a little pile of 7 cards for each sign. I haven't looked at them. And I'm going to use the bottom of all the decks as a little general collective reading for us. And interestingly, my Divining Poets, Emily Dickinson cards wanted to come out very strongly. And the card here for us is affliction feels impalpable until ourselves, with capital O, are struck. And to me at this moment, this means that whatever difficulties we're having may feel intractable until we get in touch with our wider self, with our whole capital O, ourself. And interestingly, below that it says, beauty be not caused, it is. Then we have the spiral of incarnation, past lives, soul blueprint, karmic patterns. Contemplation, the 5 of Wands, the Hermit, 9 of Cups, and Desert Dreams. So there's a lot here about introspection, about getting in touch with the soul, getting in touch perhaps with past lives. Taking time to come into alignment. I've kind of been avoiding the word balance and using the word alignment instead. And it's been coming through strongly for me with the Justice card, this sense of being aligned, being true, the way that a piece of carpentry is trued, so that it, if you're making a table, you want the table to be flat and even, rather than all wonky with each leg a different length. If you're hanging a picture, you want it to hang evenly. So something about being true, being to plumb, being righted in this way. And here she is with this cup on her head, moving in such a way that that cup doesn't spill. So being in alignment and perhaps being in balance around our emotional life. Also around our desires. The 9 of Cups is often seen as the wish fulfillment card. And then the Desert Dreams. And yet, with all of this sort of contemplative energy going on, right in the center is the 5 of Wands. And certainly, I think if you do pay attention to the outside world, to news and these things, it could feel like chaos. It could feel like things burning. It could feel like conflict. And maybe it is because of that this contemplative energy is needed, because actually under the Five of Wands in the deck is death. And then under him, actually, I'm seeing now, is the King of Swords, who is the Aquarius court card. But he's very much at ease. You know, he's clear in his own mind. He knows what to do. He knows how to connect to his higher self, his wider self, right? To these crows who bring divine information. And then under the Hermit, we have this Eight of Pentacles. And I often see this not as leaving this tentacled being behind, but as walking with it. Walking with the other world, and then you know that it's there. You're not blind to the fact that this energy of spirit, of all of this unseen world, and however you see that, whether it's, you know, fairies or spirits or ghosts or, you know, kind of whatever it is that works for you. Under this Nine of Cups is this Three of Pentacles, which is often my working with spirit card. And then under Desert Dreams is soulmates. So it seems to me that there's going to be change, there's going to be chaos, there's going to be this plutonic energy moving through Aquarius. This is the first Aquarius new moon since Pluto has been definitively in Aquarius. No going back. And further in Aquarius than he's been in, you know, 200 some odd years. And it is just, we are just at the beginning. So how do we get ahead of it? Kind of. How do we get to the front of the procession? How do we so that we can direct where it goes, at least in our own lives? All right, and that seems to be to be in really good touch with our wider self, with our intuition, with the divine. Oh. Let's see where it goes for all of us. We begin, of course, with Aries. "'Tis not that dying hurts us so, 'tis living hurts us more." Animal kin. Sweet familiars, messengers, companions. Page of Wands. Seven of Wands. The Chariot. Five of Cups. Oh, and I was going to leave this. So I will, even though I've looked at it. You know, this idea, right, that it's life that's more frightening than death. I think that can be true for Aries, for the fire signs. if we think of life as, you know, paying attention to the little moments and to how we feel, it can be really easy with Aries energy to just barrel forward, just take the next action and the next action and the next action. You hear that, right? People who are in grief who don't want to be at home by themselves. They want to go back to work immediately so that they're not thinking about their grief. They want to be occupied. They want to not feel bad. But, you know, when we do that, we just bury that stuff. And there's something here, you know, about animals, wild animals. I think animals that live with us have taken on some of our bad habits about holding on to things. But then animals, wild animals, you know, they deal with it, right? An animal that has, you know, been through some sort of shocking event, chased by something, but they got away, right? There's that shaking. They shake it off. They deal with it in the moment. It's not as complex, of course, for them as it is for us. But they don't, you know, wait a whole week before they decide to shake and release that adrenaline that has accumulated. They take that moment immediately. Right, with the Page of Wands, seeing these challenges, these emotional things, difficulties, maybe difficulties looking at what might be happening around them, or, you know, maybe they feel okay about that, but their friends and family are, you know, in distress. And to get curious about it. The Page of Wands is a curious energy. And then here in the center, we have this Seven of Wands, this peace in the middle of what, you know, could be conflict. The Seven of Wands usually shows somebody in a defensive position. And I've seen, you know, various people who talk about culture now, you know, saying things like resist the machine, or, you know, fight back against whatever, rage against the machine. But does that really work? Is raging against the machine really going to work? It may be the learned response, it may be the automatic response, it may be the easy response, certainly for Aries energy. But there is an invitation here to act differently. I did a reading for Aries about the evolving Mars, about taking this archetype of action, you know, kind of paring it all the way down, getting rid of context entirely, and saying that if we say that Mars is about action, the active principle, does that have to be a warrior? Is war necessary? Or is that just where we've taken it so far? I say that it's not necessary, that Aries can act in other ways, right? It is the active principle. There are other ways to take action than to fight. You know, and this Chariot card always, or often seems to me, you know, the discoverer, like, oh, there's where I want to go. That's the North Star, or my star. That's where I'm heading. You know, that's what feels really good, both to the intellect as well as to the animal body. Here with this You know, with this horse, this is kind of a Mars figure. And then the Five of Cups being, right, being willing to engage with these difficult energies, and they may not be yours. It actually feels sort of maybe like somebody else. Maybe Aries, your big challenge is people around you who are in distress more than you yourself. And being willing to engage more softly, to engage with curiosity, to not try and solve their problem, to not try and, you know, put their cups back for them. You know, or tell them, oh, you know, there's other cups. But just to be with that energy. You know, Aries has had Capricorn, has had Pluto moving square through Capricorn since 2008. Very challenging. I mean, we went through a whole period with Uranus in Aries and Pluto in Capricorn, right, from around 2012 to 2017. Very challenging. But now Pluto is moving sextile. And that's a good working relationship. There's a real opening and opportunity here for change, for transformation for Aries. And this last card is meditation. So for Aries to embrace greater stillness, to embrace curiosity, to embrace a different kind of taking action. Particularly through this period of Mars moving back and forth through Cancer, right, where it's about the feels. There's a couple of other things coming. Venus and Mercury are going to move retrograde through Aries in the spring. And then both Saturn and Neptune are going to enter Aries for the first time later this year. And they move in there completely in February of 2026. Right, so this Neptunian energy, this Saturnian energy of discipline, I think this is the opening for you, Aries, to add new skills for dealing with this that's happening. Aries. Taurus. Luck is not chance, it's toil. Fortune's expensive smile is earned. Inner eye. Pineal activation, illumination, psychic bridge. The Queen of Pentacles, there you are. And the Empress. And the World, my goodness. Earthy as earthy you can be. Six of Wands. Oh, I keep looking at that card when I don't mean to. Oh. Luck is not chance, it's toil. Fortune's expensive smile is earned. You know, Aries reading was about a different kind of action for Aries. And I think it's a different kind of toil. Right? For Aries, it's this watery, emotional thing. And for you, it's an airy, mental thing. You know, you may be used to actually this toil. I think Taurus is all, you know, can be all about toil. Right? The oxen in the yokes. You know, doing row after row in a field. And this new moon who is square your sign is asking you to do things differently. To start with the inner eye. For the toil, the work that you do, to be energetic to begin with. Right? Because all of these, right, the Queen of Pentacles, certainly the Empress, and this particular World card, all have this, right, this earthy receiving energy. Something that is energetic first. That's not to say that there isn't physical stuff that goes on. But that if you begin with the energetic, with this mental space, then the physical just falls into place. And although you may go and do things, it will be easier. It will flow. Right? We have this Six of Wands, victorious energy. You know, that we don't want a lot of efforting and battling and pushing and forcing and toiling and struggling. That's the old way. And I think that Uranus passing through your sign has been showing you this, right? He is lightning, he is energy, he is innovation and change. So that, you know, and this isn't, it's simple, I want to say, but not necessarily easy. We're used to doing things physically, perhaps, to toiling, to struggling. We may have some programming that says it's virtuous to struggle. You know, you have to really earn whatever you have. You know, you have to get to the top of the game. You have all of these things. And this new moon, and, you know, maybe from now, right, Pluto is now moving square Taurus. And that is a challenge. The challenge to do things differently, to do things kind of in this, right, more this energy of air. And it's air that has a real physical component, because Saturn is one of Aquarius's planets. So it doesn't, you know, it's not just air, but it starts with air. We want the energy to be in balance, in alignment before we move. And that can initially, I think, feel like toil. Like a spiritual practice or a meditative practice can feel like toil at first, if you're not used to it. So this final card is Cherry Blossoms. It's so pretty. But, right, it's like all of this has come out of her head. It starts in the head with the mind. Getting the mind right. And then everything comes out of that and flows out of that and brings victory. Oh, for us. Gemini. You, too, take cobweb attitudes upon a plane of gauze. Sacred cave. Spiritual growth, period of gestation, introspection, more introspection. The fates. The Chariot, coming out for the second time now. The Lovers, there you are. Oh, and there's the Chariot again. We'll leave that for the end. Gemini. You know, this too, right? A kind of change of modus operandi. That seems to be what's happening here. Right? You like a lot of lightness, Gemini. You don't like to be pinned down, right? These cobweb attitudes upon a plane of gauze. You want to be mobile. You want to be flexible. You want to be ready to move when the wheel turns. But there's something here about choosing more slowness, right? Because the Chariot here at the center is very speedy. This Chariot is less speedy, but is more grand. Right? Also makes me think of Ganesha. You know, I don't know where asteroid Ganesha is at the moment. I want to say that he might be in Sagittarius, across the way from you. Well, now I have to look. But he's come into my head to see where asteroid Ganesha is. At this moment of this new moon. Almost there. And he is in Capricorn. So, kind of quincunx your sign. Also, he's about 7 Capricorn, so he's also semi-sextile this new moon. So that's sort of interesting. There's a sense of not, right, of it being uncomfortable. I think that this moon does seem to be about moving into things that maybe we find uncomfortable, right? The sacred cave and the period of gestation and introspection. And even the fates, you know, it's not the wheel of fortune here, it is the fates. Which is kind of a longer feeling energy. You know, it's not just whatever the wheel is doing right in the moment, it's kind of the long line of fate, the whole long line of your life. And that you wanted to just move, just go. To not be pinned down in any way. Right? To always have your options open. And there's something here that's wanting you to be more grounded. I kind of want to say also to take on a kind of leadership position. You know, this charioteer, right, he's just in pants. I think he's bare-chested. You know, he has kind of an outlaw vibe to him. But this charioteer is very regal. Has all these, you know, has wings, has kind of a crown going on, has this fabulous outfit, and this sort of throne-like thing that she's sitting on, and this grand elephant who's been, you know, adorned as well. Right, to take up a leadership position, to take a stand, to choose something to get behind. And I would want to say that, you know, nothing is forever, Gemini. But that there may be a need now to really know what you believe, really. To choose. Oh, that's interesting. This final card is Harmony. And it's making me think now, you know, of a choir that's singing. And maybe in the past you have been a member of the choir. And maybe you've even, you know, sung many different parts. But now there's this call for you to create the harmony, to be the choir director. To take on this authority, this responsibility, which may be a nasty word to you. Right, Jupiter's been moving back and forth. I can't remember now when he turns direct. It's soon. So to take on this role of director, of leader, Gemini. Right, because if you lead, you do have to make choices. You have to kind of take a stand, make a choice about, you know, your values and what you believe. Oh, Gemini. Cancer. Forever might be short. Gentle drift. There is no need to rush. Go with the flow. Trust. The Ten of Wands. Page of Cups. Knight of Fungi. The Nine of Pentacles. Well, Cancer, so far everybody has been challenged to move against what might be their habitual way. And I think that's true for you as well. That maybe you have a tendency to take things very seriously. You know, maybe you're always thinking about the long term, right? Forever might be short. That maybe you're always thinking about, you know, well, how will this be 5 years from now? You know, is the choice I'm making, will it be good forever? And then I need to, you know, I need to take action. Cancer is it's a cardinal sign, a sign that can, you know, desire to initiate something. You know, I need to be the one to initiate this thing, whatever it is. I need to take charge of things. You know, if I don't do it, it won't get done right. But this is all, you know, this, right, the gentle drift. Maybe it doesn't have to happen today. Or we can, you know, let it unfold. You know, does that email have to be answered right, you know, within an hour of receiving it, or can we let it unfold? I actually learned that some years ago, working with somebody. And when he would get a sort of upset email from somewhere else, from another department, he wouldn't necessarily respond to it immediately. And often whatever the upset was would work itself out without his participation, because the initial party had just kind of either panicked or jumped to a conclusion or did something. And then after they sent the email and they had time to think about it and go and do other things, they worked it out for themselves. And he never had to respond. And so I became much more judicious about whether I was responding immediately to things. And it was challenging for me to do that. Right? But Ten of Wands, the challenge of dropping everything. Of dropping the load that, you know, hasn't been yours to carry, to become the Page of Cups. Right? Rather than being the Queen of Cups, perhaps, or the King, or even the Knight, to be the Page. Very few responsibilities, just at the beginning of things. You know, the ability to be lighthearted, to, you know, keep your sense of humor. Right here with these little flying pigs. And this Knight of Pentacles too, who's, you know, sort of walking around and he's just, you know, he's got this mushroom that has more mushrooms falling out of it. You know, he moves slowly. He's not in a rush to get anywhere. He's even riding side saddle here. You know, it's sort of like he's fertilizing a little bit things. And then the Nine of Pentacles. Real satisfaction and appreciation for what you already have and what you've accomplished. You know, maybe you have a tendency to sell yourself short, to think that you're not very successful, or that you haven't done all the things that you wanted to do, or that, you aren't making as much money, or all of these things. Maybe you have a tendency to not see all of the good. And I think you are being challenged to see the good, to take a little break, to, reassess. What is it that I have to, where do I have to be responsible, and where maybe am I taking on things that are not mine? And, there might even be people around you who would really like to take over something. Those of us who are over functioners, we assume that other people don't want to do X, Y, or Z. But maybe they just don't want to do it the way we do it. Maybe they have a whole other way of doing it, but they really enjoy getting their hands in there. Brene Brown talks about this. She has siblings, and one of their parents was in the hospital, and she showed up, and being the overfunctioner, the oldest, she was just going to start doing stuff and take over. And they actually challenged her on this, right? They didn't want to just be observers. They wanted to participate. So maybe these people over here could be engaged, could participate. Cancer. Maybe you could go off, right? Be by yourself in your garden and just let other people deal with stuff. What's your last card? Oh, sense of wonder. Maybe you've also really had your head down, just doing the next thing. Or you've been looking too far into the future. Everything is going to hell. The world is ending. Keeping that sense of wonder. Keeping that light heart. Dropping this 10 of Wands. And maybe letting yourself drift for a bit, Cancer. Intriguing. These messages are intriguing. Leo. I tasted, careless, then. I did not know the wine. Came once a world. Did you? I'm going to read that again. I tasted, careless, then. I did not know the wine came once a world. Did you? Nostalgic release. Healing the past, relationships, sensory memories. The Empress. The High Priestess. Two of Aether. Temperance. We'll save that for the end. Oh, Leo. The sensual life. Right? Have you been careless? Or sort of quick, or unthinking, or unnoticing the world around you? You had Mars in your sign for a bit, and then he'll be back after spending time in Cancer. And I think that perhaps, and you have Venus is going to move retrograde through Aries, trine your sign in the spring. So there is something here about becoming more aware of your sensual universe. Right? She is naked here in this. You know, and then there's this Empress, you know, in this outfit of flowers. You know, and she seems to be having an ecstatic moment there. And then there's the High Priestess. So receiving information through this sensual pathway. You know, and maybe I do think of the fixed signs as being the real sensualists, even Aquarius, particularly Taurus, but also the others being sensualists. You know, maybe in their particular element. And perhaps with Pluto moving through Aquarius now, he's going to be opposing and squaring and conjuncting all these fixed signs. That one of his messages is going to be around the physical. We think of Aquarius as, you know, futuristic and digital and, you know, very of the mind. But he is the water bearer. He is carrying something. And Saturn is one of his planets. And Saturn is the physical world. I think that part of Pluto's message as he moves through Aquarius is going to be about the importance of the physical and of nature in particular, of ourselves as nature, of ourselves as animal bodies. How we can really combine this, you know, strong capacity for mental air stuff. You know, we have this Two of Aether, the making choices, you know, working from an intuitive way, right, with blindness. And then there's Temperance, which is partly about moderation, everything in moderation, but also about combining things. This mind, right, bringing the mind back to the body. We tend to see, you know, even those people who talk about the connection of the mind to the body still somehow see the mind as separate, rather than of and integral and a part of the body. And maybe that's part of your assignment, your moving forward, your leadership is going to be through this embodied place to challenge perhaps an overly digital, overly air thing that may be happening around you, Leo. Oh. Last card, Stardust. You know, and that feels like bringing the stars to Earth. Right? Astronomy, astrology, these things where we look out to the stars can feel, I think, very mental. And in fact, You know, I think lots of people become astronomers because they go outside, you know, when they're children and they see the stars and they get intrigued. There's a real physical aspect to that. You know, I remember lying on the grass or on the beach when I was a child, looking up at the stars when we were far from the city, and you could see a lot of them. There's a real physical thing that happens there. There's a visceral connection. You know, and the stars are these bright, giant nuclear furnaces of creation. There's a real physicality to it. But then, you know, you go to school, you get your degrees in astronomy, and you end up just sitting in a room with, you know, computer models. So how do we bring that back? How do we bring back the sensual? How do we bring ourselves back? I think your leadership, Leo, is going to be very important as we do this. And I hope that you enjoy it. I think it would be really fun. Right? She's clearly having a great experience. Right? To really taste the wine. Virgo. Your secret, perched in ecstasy, defies imprisonment. Virgo. You are a gift. Visionary, step into your light. The maiden. The Six of Pentacles. Justice. And the Eight of Swords. We'll save this for the end. Virgo. Oh. You know, you are the maiden. Right? The Virgo, the virgin. There is something here about coming back to yourself, coming back to your own magic, your secret perched in ecstasy, your sense of wonder, your ability to be magical, your ability to be immutable sign. You are Earth, but you have Mercury as your planet. Your modality is mutability. And I think that over time you've gotten really kind of fixed, Virgo. And that you're going to be recovering a lightness, right? A capacity for ecstasy. And this, I think, is directly related to the nodes, right? The North Node is moving through Pisces, so the South Node through Virgo. So the chance for Virgo to release anything that's been put on you or that you've started carrying that you really don't need. You know, this is actually seeming to me like an exchange happening. Right? I'm going to give back this because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to take this instead. I'm going to give back some, you know, mental rigidity. I'm going to give back a tendency to overthinking. I'm going to give back, you know, maybe a need for everything to be excessively ordered, or, you know, to feel really uncomfortable unless things are exactly right for me. You know, in the introduction, if you didn't watch it, we got the Hermit out, who is Virgo's card. And he's a very You know, he's a very sort of free-form kind of hermit. He doesn't, you know, it seems like he probably has very little, that he, you know, has just enough for himself, but that he's not all that concerned about everything being in its exact right place. That, you know, that he's relaxed, at ease with things. You know, that he's prepared to let the moon carry him away sometimes into ecstatic experience, because you do, right? If you want to have an ecstatic experience, you have to release control. And so we have justice, which has been coming out for me as a righting of things in a kind of natural rightness, returning to a natural space, returning to the frequency you had when you were, you know, conceived. And of course, the Eight of Swords is seeing that you can do that. That you can just step out of the Circle of Swords, that there's nothing actually binding you in any way. And in fact, that the swords are, in this particular card, the swords, you know, being all nicely lined up like that, that you always have that. You have your mental skills and capacity. They're not going to leave you if you allow yourself to step into ecstasy. It's not like you'll go crazy and never come back. You can allow yourself flexibility and spontaneity and ecstasy and a lot of change and maybe a little bit of chaos even. You know, this is kind of a chaotic scene going on. We've got this storm in the background. There's a snake happening here. You know, her outfit here is pretty strange, and she's got this bird head going on. So that things don't have to be just so. That you can allow yourself freedom. So the last card, is blessings. You know, and with this idea of ecstasy, you know, there's these poppies. And I personally I believe that we can reach ecstasy without any sort of substance. That we can take kind of energetic puppies. That we can engage with poppy energy without taking the physical poppies in. Right? The ecstasy can be found without substances. And then maybe there's an invitation to you, Virgo, to think about ecstasy, right? Which means to be out of the, right? It sort of means out of, right, ecstasis, out of the status, kind of the status quo, out of the stasis. So to lose, right, to lose control, to allow emotion to take you over, or maybe to allow laughter to take you over. You know, if you've ever laughed so much that you couldn't stop, you were just taken over, that's an ecstatic moment. And I think it's a really great gateway. I mean, there's other ways, right? If you're crying and you can't, you know, you surrender to to sobbing, to crying. That's an ecstatic moment. And maybe you can explore this ecstatic energy, Virgo. This loosening of strictures and bonds. I think that sounds like a lot of fun, Virgo. I think you should do it. I know, I said should. But I don't really mean like you should do it. I mean, I think it'll be fun. Go ahead, Virgo. Libra. Passenger of infinity. Dive in. Spontaneity, adventure, intuitive jumps. The Hanged Woman. Five of Pentacles. Four of Fungi. The Magician. We'll leave this one to the end. Well, this seems to me, Libra, that you are being asked to see yourself very differently. I mean, the South Node rather has moved out of your sign, and Pluto is no longer squaring Libra. He is now trining Libra, and this is a really easy flow of energy. So I think where in the past maybe you felt really challenged by this Plutonic energy, now it's coming in like the Magician. Wanting you to see yourself as much more maybe ethereal, much more spiritual, right? Kind of magical than perhaps you've been feeling. Certainly at the moment, as the sign that desires harmony, that desires a kind of rightness, that desires for things to flow, you may be feeling deeply, deeply uncomfortable. In fact, you may feel an enormous weight on you as the chaos and animosity and antagonism and fighting are happening in the world. But I think you're being asked to expand your capacity. To be able to engage with relationships even when they're not harmonious. To be able to look at them, to maybe be able to understand them, to see differing points of view, to understand better, more clearly why certain conflicts are occurring. The really successful diplomat can do that, can see both sides, can find ways to bring people together, can find the places where people actually believe the same things, can find the way to the win-win. You know, not in like in a compromise way where somebody, you know, where each side has to give up a bunch of things, but to really find the win-win where people are really pleased with what they have. I mean, and it may require changing their minds, helping them to see that a different way would actually be to their great advantage. You know, it's seeming like as I go through this that that the air and fire signs in particular, and we'll see if this continues with Sagittarius and Aquarius, are being asked to enter into into leadership positions. Aries to act, to find other ways to take action, to, right, that war is not the only way that Mars can act, right? If we see Mars in a very, very basic way as the active principle, Leo is being asked to see things through a sensual lens, to remind us all of our animal selves, of our natural selves, to hold that vision. And you seem to be being asked to be the diplomat, to be the person who can see various sides of a thing, and then how a win-win can be engaged, to be able to talk to people in a way that they will understand. You know, and it may seem like magic to people who are outside of you. And, you know, a certain amount of magic is involved, right? The ability to hold this sense of justice, this sense of a rightness, of something being right, being true, being plumb, being, right? My metaphor has been turning a cup upright so that it can act as a cup and hold water. And so, right, the holding of that energy, right, as she, you know, holds her pose, holds herself in alignment with her vision. Oh, Libra, what's your final card? Oh, nurture yourself. So that's a little advice there at the end. And I don't know what scale this is on for you. This could be in your own family, if your family is very much at odds with one another, or maybe you have a friend group, or people in your neighborhood, or maybe it's at your job. Or it could be much bigger, of course. You know, it may be that that your alignment will be so clear that you can affect things on a larger scale. But that it will be important for you to take care of yourself. To not overdo this, to make sure that your needs are being met. Your emotional needs, your physical needs, that you're not, you know, kind of isolating yourself in order to keep the signal clear. that you allow people to come and nourish you as well, Libra. Oh. Scorpio. For each ecstatic instant, we must an anguish pay in keen and quivering ratio to the ecstasy. Sweet surrender. The ghost. Ace of Swords. The moon. Ace of Wands. We'll save that for the end. Well, this is a very sort of scorpionic idea. That there is, right, that there's some kind of balancing thing. That, you know, for every happy thing, you have to suffer a bad thing. And it's certainly a societal idea, right? That there, you know, maybe there's another shoe that has to drop, or, you know, that if you get too much good, you're going to end up with bad in your life. I'm actually thinking now of a scene in the movie The Longest Day, which is about D-Day. And there's a paratrooper who wins a whole, like a lot of money, like $1,000 in a poker game. But then he's reminded that the last time he won a lot of money in a poker game, he broke his leg in a practice jump. And so he decides that he can't have all this good. And so he goes and he plays and he loses all the money so that he can jump clean. So this is a real idea that we have, that we can't have too much good, that too much good is evil or bad or tarnishing in some way. And I think you're being asked to release that. Because we have this sweet surrender, let it go, releasing earthly attachments, clear the air. So releasing, not releasing earthly attachments in the sense that you don't care about physical things, but releasing these ideas, these, you know, beliefs that we have as humans. They may have been put on us because, you know, they may have been methods of control. They may have been methods to deal with sour grapes kind of feelings. Oh, you know, that person has a lot, but misfortune will come to them because you can only have so much good. Right? There's lots of ways that this belief that you can't, you know, have a lot of blessings, that something's going to come and bite you on the ass can be used. Right? But ghosts, releasing ghosts. Releasing the ghosts, those things which haunt you. Coming to a clear mind. And I want to say coming to a mind kind of to an original resonance, an original vibration, right? At the moment of conception, you were pretty clear, right? You hadn't had all of this stuff put on you yet. Right? A clean slate. You know, in this moon energy of the unknown, of heading into the unknown, of discovery, right, with the Ace of Wands, right, these two aces. You know, Pluto is one of your planets, and he's moving square now as he moves through Aquarius. This is a challenge. And I think it's a challenge, at least in part, to you to clear your mind of old beliefs that are not true. And that maybe have been holding you back. And then maybe you kept some of them because, you know, that made you feel virtuous. Or people told you it was virtuous to believe X, Y, or Z. But you can, right? You have the ability now to release that, to clear the air. And to eliminate, right? To let go of past experience. You know, just because something happened in the past doesn't mean that it's going to repeat itself. Unless you really like focus on the belief that it's going to repeat itself. Right? To allow yourself to see the future as open and uncertain. To allow the new beginning, the new inspiration. Scorpio. You know, Uranus has been moving across the way from you. That's another challenge. He is seen as exalted in Scorpio. I don't know that I agree with that, but it is a thing. Right? The challenge to really change, especially in the mental sphere of things. Final card. Plant me a tree. Oh, that's very Taurus, isn't it? You know, and there's something, right? There's something very nurturing about this card. Right? Nurturing and protective. Caring. You know, I don't think, right, nurturing is not a word that most people, I think, would apply to Scorpio. But I think you're being asked to do just that. To nurture this new seed. This ace that has been planted, perhaps by Uranus, and is now being acted upon by Pluto. And actually by Mars as well, who is your other guiding planet. He's moving through Cancer, which is trine your sign. And Cancer is certainly a nurturing energy. So allow yourself to nurture new life, Scorpio. New ideas. To clear the air in your mind. To clear out sort of cobwebs of the past. To release the ghosts. And allow the new to grow. Sagittarius. Within its reach, though yet ungrasped, desire's perfect goal. No nearer, lest the actual should disenthrall thy soul. In other words, you want it until you have it. Hold the light. Lemuria, ancient memories, sensitive gifts I remember. Seven of Wands. Two of Wands. 10 of Aether. Seven of Wands again. Sagittarius. You know, this feels like keeping yourself in suspense. Not allowing yourself to have something because once you have it, you won't want it anymore. Within its reach, though yet ungrasped, desire's perfect goal. No nearer, lest the actual should disenthrall thy soul. Right? Kind of keeping things at arm's length. It's sort of making me think of the idea of courtly love as it existed in the Middle Ages. You know, this desire forever deferred. You know, or on TV shows where there's some sort of sexual tension between leads. And it's a really delicate balance because you can't keep it up for too long because then it can't sustain itself for too long. But once the two people come together, then there's this kind of collapse of the energy. And so it seems to me that you've been keeping something away from yourself. Right? Hold the light, hold it back. Right? Here, you know, this Seven of Wands who's sort of, right, she's leaning back away from these wands. And then this person who's kind of looking endlessly out with longing. There's also a romance to it, this romance of longing. You know, and even with this Ten of Aether, right, that this tiger is sort of protecting this dead body. You know, I don't want it to end. I don't want this to complete, because if it completes, then I'm going to fall flat. But that's kind of exhausting, isn't it, Sagittarius? The end forever deferred. And it also assumes a little bit that there's only ever one end, or that the having is somehow going to be disappointing. But this Seven of Wands is the having, right? She has this wand. She is celebrating this wand. She is unconcerned about these other wands. She has chosen, she's taken it, she's accepted it. So you, it seems, Sagittarius, are being invited to have, to experience having, rather than this endless seeking. This endless quest. To allow yourself to have. You know, maybe that's a challenge, right? To have, to make a commitment to something, to stay in a situation when it becomes uncomfortable, rather than taking action and moving on to something else. That's a Sagittarius shadow. Just leaving when something gets uncomfortable. Kind of perpetual running. Because to stay feels, right, it feels really uncomfortable. It's that avoidant energy. Oh, Sagittarius, what's your final card? Illumination. Oh. Well, you know that, right? That if you have been seeking the answer, seeking the illumination, seeking the way, that it will come when you stop. When you, right, when you take something, when you accept it, when you commit to a singular thing, when you stop moving, there will be illumination. There is some similarity to Aries reading too. Right? The ability to sit and hold. Because you're not, right? If you're at this reading, you're a human being, you have a natal chart, you don't have just Sagittarius. Even if you've got a Sagittarius stellium with 4 or 5 planets in there, there are still other energies in your chart, all of them. You absolutely have the capacity to have, to hold, to enjoy, to savor. Right? Rather than immediately moving to the next thing. And also to be discerning. Right? To not, just go after something because it's hard to get. But because you actually do want to engage with that thing. Whether it's a job or a person or whatever it is. Sagittarius. Everybody's being challenged by this moon. Capricorn. The gem or best unknown. Oh. Dreamy escape. Wanderlust, hidden treasures, sojourn. Six of Cups. The Magician. 5 of Fungi. And the 9 of Wands. Capricorn. Maybe you've been getting too specific around trying to create. We have this Magician here at the center. And on one side, there's this 5 of Fungi and the 9 of Wands, which feel like a lot of efforting. A lot of work. Seeing things as really challenging. Seeing things as difficult. And then on the other side, we have this 6 of Cups and this dreamy escape. Right, of hidden treasures. And then this gem were best unknown. That if you've been attempting to bring something into being, maybe you've been too specific. Maybe you've really been kind of really mentally efforting. Spending a lot of time, really visioning, focusing. Maybe you've been writing things down. When in fact you want to have a lighter touch about this. And to really allow Source and your wider self to contribute. That perhaps you've also been, really wanting just to do it yourself. Right? It's my thing. I'm going to bring it into being. It's going to be exactly what I want. Right? You want a job done properly, you do it yourself. If something comes easily, well, then it's not worth it. Which are kind of, I know a Capricorn who, she's an artist. I mean, I think of her that way, but art, drawing came really easily for her. So she found it unsatisfying. She didn't want to make a career out of it because it was easy. Pisces is over there laughing about that. Right? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Just ease, yeah? And Pluto has been in your sign, was in your sign for a long time. From 2008 to November, really, of 2024. And it may be that, that heaviness has kind of stayed with you a little bit. It's also, is meant to open you up, but it is heavy. So now that kind of pressure has been released, it may take you a little while to unfold, to really integrate the gifts that Pluto offered, right? Of being the magician, of creating magic with the physical world through energy, through working with Source. And this is an invitation really to allow that for yourself. To maybe, right, to ease up, to, maybe spend more time in just feeling around things. How do you want to feel in the future? Maybe really just open your mind. What comes just spontaneously? What's been showing up in your dreams? What attracts your attention when you go out into the world? What's wanting, right? What's the communication that wants to come through? Final card. Oh, yeah, wallflower. Out of the box. Out of your frame, there's this whole other thing happening over here. That might be really beautiful if you get out of your box. Allow the magical energy, allow Source. Allow the dreaming. And this was the card in the intro. Desert Dreams. Let yourself get dreamy, Capricorn. I think that may be challenging for you. All these readings. This is a challenging moon. I mean, it's not tightly conjunct Pluto, but Pluto's in there. And there's this trine to Jupiter, expansion. Aquarius. Oh, Aquarius, your moon. The second half of joy is shorter than the first. Earthwalk. Reorientation, collective wisdom, natural healing. Knight of Wands. The Star, there you are. Seven of Combustion. Ace of Cups. We'll leave that for the end. Well, You know, this Emily Dickinson deck is interesting because often the card comes out as something that we believe as a society, but that is not true and that doesn't serve us at all. Right? This idea that the second half of joy is shorter than the first, that we have this joy and then it crashes and we are bereft again. And I think that part of the reason that this happens, that we're always, you know, we do have renewing desire, but we've kind of gotten into this place where it's, right, you win that prize, what's the next one? You know, I won the Nobel Prize, I'm already starting research to get the next one. We've lost the capacity to have, to savor, to enjoy, to bask. It's just speed, speed, speed. And I think that as Pluto moves through Aquarius, one of his messages is going to be about that. And, you know, Leo across the way from you got this message of reminding people about our earthly, human, sensual selves. And I think you're being asked to kind of to remind us about the mental aspects of that. You know, what has been put on us? What beliefs have we been given through our society, our culture, our family, that are simply not true and that obstruct us and obstruct thriving on the planet as a whole? Because we do have this, right, Earth walk. Reorientation, collective wisdom, natural healing. And then this Knight of Wands, this inspiration, this romance. You know, does it have to be passion deferred forever? Or can we have something? Can we have something and really enjoy it? Can we have it and allow it to change? You know, can we take a job and allow that job to shift and change and evolve? Can we, you know, join up with a partner and allow the relationship to shift and change and grow, and each of us, and to be, you know, kind of constantly renewed through life? Right? You here at the center, this star, this guiding light, the light of the heart, the light of the soul. And then this Seven of Wands, which is about dispelling the smoke and mirrors. So what are the societal things? And Aquarius is also about society, right? It's both the individual and the society, right? It's the Federation and the Borg. It's individualism and groupthink. So what are the smoke and mirrors around these things? Right? What is your holy grail? What is your cup that overflows forever? Aquarius. What is your heart's desire? You know, is it knowing that there is no first and second half of joy? The joy is ever renewing. That we have obstructed ourselves with our inability to have, to savor, to bask, to enjoy, to watch, to hold. You know, that's also Saturn energy. I think Saturn gets a really bad rap as the restrictor, but he's also the holder, the container. Final card. Oh, Moonlight Reflections. That just feels like ease and peace to me. Like basking, savoring, enjoying. You know, watching, going out and watching the moon rise. And then the moon sets, and that's okay. Because it will rise again tomorrow. Right? That there's joy in change and in cycles and in movement as well as in stillness. I think you really are. You're I think the air and fire signs, right? The trines and sextiles to Aquarius, and also the opposition in with Leo, are really, you know, being asked to lead in many ways, to dispel a lot of the beliefs that we have as a society that need to go if the whole society and the earth is going to thrive. That you will be at the forefront of these changes, whether it's, you know, on a little scale in your group or whether it's on a bigger scale. And, you know, of course, the little becomes big. Oh, Aquarius. Pisces. The moderate drinker of delight does not deserve the spring. Duality. Paradigm shift. Equilibrium. Balance. Temperance. King of Wands. Six of Swords. Nine of Combustion. Strength. Oh, Pisces. We'll leave this for the end. Well, it seems to me that you're being asked to give up moderation, Pisces. I don't know where you've been moderate. But, you know, maybe, you know, having Neptune moving through Pisces, I think has, you know, while it has certainly created lots of imagination and creativity, it has also been confusing and disorienting and foggy, right? It feels like this kind of veil that maybe has been over us too much because he's moving through Pisces. It's too much. Neptune in Pisces maybe has been too much. But he's about to move into Aries. We're going to get a taste of that this year in 2025, and then he'll move in there solidly in February of 2026. And that may give us a real zip, right? The imagination and creativity with this Aries fire behind it. And it seems like you're being asked to kind of get out ahead of that. And maybe it's because the North Node has moved into your sign, having just been in Aries. All right, passing through, building up that Aries fire, kind of bringing it into Pisces. Because we have this, right, this moderate drinker of delight. You don't deserve, right? The moderation doesn't deserve the spring. But maybe it's been the confusion, right? There's been a need. This King of Wands is very buttoned down. Maybe you've really felt a need to keep things kind of, as stable as you can, to be as moderate as you can, because it has felt, like the ground was shifting underneath you too much, even for you, Pisces. But now there's this move, this Six of Swords, this mental move through the Nine of Combustion, the Nine of Wands, right? It's like this fire entering the mind. And then we move from this kind of button down Leo energy into strength, Leo's major arcana. It's also making me think in the Thoth deck, this card is Lust. So that you will be able to throw off moderation. I kind of picture, right, water that has been held in by a dam. And now that dam is removed. And it isn't just that, because dams have sluices where you can open it a little bit to let some of the pressure out. This is just taking the dam out entirely. Just taking it out so the water flows freely. That any moderation you've had around your desires, around how you drink life in, is going away. You are moving on from that. And I actually think that it isn't going to be effortful. I think it's going to kind of happen naturally, that it'll just happen. If you allow it, if you don't, forever correct yourself. If you allow yourself to really drink life in, to drink until you're sated and I actually kind of see, this image of, eating fruit like peaches, eating ripe peaches and the juice just running down your chin. Final card. Rise up. Oh. So right? It's like you've been sitting here in the water and you're about to rise up in your red outfit, right? You've got your red shawl here, that fire, that passion, that desire. And now you're just going to rise up, Pisces. Oh, so interesting, Pisces. And it's interesting because some of the other signs are being asked to kind of take on responsibilities, and that doesn't feel like you at all. This sort of feels like the opposite. Or that maybe your leadership is just in, like, getting the energy to really move. right? And preparing for this Neptune-Saturn conjunction happening at 0 Aries, right? The two of them are still in Pisces. They're having this conversation, and then they're going to come together in Aries. There's real possibilities for this dam, some dam to change, to be removed, perhaps. The last time they were together, it was in Capricorn, the Berlin Wall came down. And Nelson Mandela was released from prison. So there is enormous possibility for great and beautiful change that has this Piscean vision of beauty and flow and spirit. Oh, I'm excited for you, Pisces. And for the rest of us. Ooh. I wish everyone the very, very best at this Aquarius new moon. And I'll see you next time. So long.